So guys, let's start our class with again a very positive quote. You cannot, you just cannot beat the person who never gives up. So guys, always try to achieve your goal. Never ever think of giving up on your goals, because whenever you feel like giving up on your goals, just remember the reason. Why did you start? Right? So never give up on your goals, and no one can beat you if you are determined. So guys, today we're going to talk about classical methods of food analysis. So guys, if you read the topic carefully, it is overview. So FSSAI here wants you to just have a basic idea, because if you see this unit completely talks about the analytical methods. So those are not important from examination point of view or even from practical point of view for food safety officers and technical officers, because these topics might be, or they are definitely very very important for the candidates who are appearing for food analyst exam. But since all of you are appearing for food safety officers exam, so FSCI just want you guys to have a basic idea. So that is why they have mentioned overview. So you need to read syllabus very carefully. Wherever it's mentioned overview, you just get an idea about that topic, right? And so today we'll talk about the basic or classical methods of food analysis. So I'll take you through the older times, right? All the classical methods, how they were used, and for what type of food analysis they were used, and how they have been replaced today by modern technological instruments in our laboratory. Right. So today's class would be very, very basic, because I don't want you to go into detail in this topic, because I hardly remember if there was any question asked from this topic. So even though if you skip this, it hardly matters. But yeah, since it's mentioned in our syllabus, why to skip it? You can just take an overview. If at all any question comes, you can definitely attempt it, even if you don't read about this topic, right? So, guys, before beginning, we'll just go through, very, very basic points like why analysis is required in case of food, and how from 20th century how this technology started developing. So, just an overview of that, right? So, if you see, food and agriculture products comprise simple, complex, and diverse chemical mixture that historically have presented challenge for assessing food safety, nutrition, content, stability, and sensory qualities. So, guys, if you see the food or the agriculture product, so these are complex items because they have diverse range of chemical mixture in them, right? Because as you know, foods are made up of either they would have proteins, or they are mixture of protein, fat, or other carbohydrates, right, or minerals. So it's a complex mixture, and that is why the food scientists, they have always faced a challenge to assess the food safety, its nutrition content, or the stability and the sensory qualities. But as you know, I mean, the scientists from 1990s, they are the pioneers, they are the fathers who gave us these technologies. And further in 20th century or in the 21st century, we have just developed on those technologies. Right. So if you see, the analysis of food composition has significantly evolved over past 100 years, progressing from reliance of predominantly wet chemistry laboratories method for analysis to mid 20th century of the gradual replacement by modern instrumental techniques. So guys, the classical methods, these are also known as wet chemistry, because I since you majority of you are from science background, so you might have even carried out these experiments in your laboratory during your 12th standard or even 10th standard. You might be knowing about titration and basic assays for conducting the for finding out the elements in the in your I mean whatever compound was given to you, right? So these all experiments, these are known as wet chemistry. So during 90s, sorry, during 19th century, so majority of the experiments were very very simple, and majority of them, they used to prefer the titration method, and that was majorly known as wet chemistry laboratory methods. But by the 20th century, so there was advent of new modern instrumental technology. So technology became more complex, and these techniques, I mean, they used to give us the results, but those were not that accurate. But with the advent of new modern instrumental techniques, so we could get results with high precision, right? So high precision results and also faster results were obtained. So pioneering developments of the pH instrument, then spectrophotometry, chromatography, and spectrometry often had immediate application for food analysis. So as you know, I mean, these were the major techniques which were developed in 20th century. So we'll talk about all this in tomorrow's class, definitely, because today we are gonna talk about only the basic and that too classical methods, right? So all these methods in 20th century, these methods came into to the fore, and they could give results, I mean, within few hours or within few minutes. So if you see, continuous improvement in the methodology over this period have led to the significant enhancement in the analytical accuracy. So these were the benefits which we could not achieve with the classical methods. So these were analytical accuracy, then precision, then detection limit, then sample throughput, thereby expanding the practical range of food applications. So with the advent of these technologies, all the loopholes which were in the classical techniques, so they were overcome, and then we could get high accuracy, precision, detection limits, and sample throughout. Right. So further, if you see, food assays have been developed to enable measurement of food quality attributes. So now these food, even classical or even modern methods, so they were basically designed such that so that all the parameters can be identified. For example, appearance of the food, or color of the food, or flavor of the food, or texture of the food. So all these parameters, they can ultimately give us the quality of the product, right? So then the instability of the food, which limits their shelf life, can be initiated by chemical reaction, enzymatic reaction, microbial transformation, or physical forces. So then in order to find out the instability of the food, so there are various parameters, which can hinder or which can lower the shelf life of the product. So in order to find out all those instability, various chemical reactions were found out, then enzymatic reactions were found out by our scientists, then microbial transformations and physical forces were found out, which could limit the shelf life of this food. Then further, if you see, analysis of the degree of emulsification or moisture content, for example, may allow a prediction of shelf life limit for a salad dressing and a snack cracker. So if you see, then further, as you all know, emulsification and moisture content, they are very, very important. So emulsification is basically just mixing of oil and water. So in as you know, in salad dressing and crackers, so these were new technologies which were developed by scientists to predict the shelf life of these products, and these were majorly based on finding out the moisture content and degree of emulsification. Then further, analysis of food pigment concern darkening, bleaching, and development of desirable colors. So then further, scientists develop various assays for finding out the food pigments, because food pigments, as you know, these are very, very important. As we read in our previous classes, that pigments or the pectin which is present in the skin of the food, so that is very, very crucial. So scientists, they wanted to analyze why the food becomes darker over time, right? Why the bleaching takes place, as we read about all this is in our enzyme section, right? So that is the hard work of the scientists, that today we have the all knowledge, right? Because in 90s, so in 19th century, they have carried out all the analysis of these pigments which could lead to darkening or bleaching, or various development of desirable colors which we found in our food. So that is just a gift of these scientists who worked hard in 19th century without any complex instrumentation, right? Then flavor assays measure oxidative rancidity. So today we read about oxidative rancidity. So all these parameters, all these techniques, these were designed again by 19th century scientists. So they had designed various assays for measuring the oxidative rancidity of the food, then undesirable browning reactions, then desirable compounds which are produced through fermentation or thermal reaction, and so on. And further, also they have developed various assays for analyzing the texture, because texture, again, as you know, it's very, very important, because texture assays that they have developed, it helps the scientists to find out the toughness or the softening of the food and the loss or gain on in the insolubility or the water holding capacity of the food. So all these, all these parameters, these were earlier founded by the scientists who worked very hard in 19th century. So we could find out each and everything about the food, right? So moving ahead, so now, guys, let's talk about the basic food analysis method. So the type of methods they used, and these are also known as wet chemistry method, right? So, guys, now I would like to tell you that we would be just taking an overview. You need not to go into detail. So I'll be giving you the name of few classical methods which were used. So just you need to remember the method and the type of uh, food component that can be tested by that method. You need not to go in detail. If you want to go, you are most welcome, but I would rather uh, recommend you guys or suggest you guys to focus on another important topics, right? So you just have to take the overview of this topic. So now moving ahead, yeah, if you see in classical methods, nearly all food analysis were performed using wet chemistry method. So as I mentioned, in the 19th century, there were not any high end or complex instrumental techniques. So they used to just rely on the wet chemistry. So wet chemistry is nothing but all the basic instruments that were available in the lab. For example, all the chemicals, all the basic burners, all basic test tubes, or other basic techniques which are available. So a majority of these methods were designed to utilize chemicals and equipment that were readily available in the typical chemical laboratory, such as glassware. So as I said, they use simple glassware, then weighing balances, then Bunsen burner and ovens. So when you read about this, you can definitely relate it to your 12th or 11th class practicals, because even during those times you would have definitely not dealt with the complex ELISA techniques or PCR techniques, or gas chromatography, all such techniques, right? So even during those time, you would have just used the glassware which is available in your lab, then weighing balance, then Benson burner or simple ovens, right? So similarly, these scientists used and they came up with these experiments for analyzing the food testing, right? So typically classical method involves combination of elaborate analytical procedures such as weighing, mixing, filtering, evaporation, distillation, and solvent extraction. So if you see, these were the just basic experiment which all the scientists in the classical testing techniques used to do. So they used to weigh the material, then they used to mix it, then used to filter it, then they, if unwanted compounds need to be evaporated, they used to carry out simple evaporation, then distillation or solvent extraction. And also clues to identifying substances and their level arose from volume determination, then titration, precipitation, with the result judged by the subjective if trained eye of the food chemist. So if you see, guys, now we have complex technology, right? So you just load the sample in the your analytical machine, and then you can view the result directly on your computer screen. But earlier time in the classical analytical method, so they used to use, as I mentioned earlier as well, titration, precipitation technique, and also when it comes to the result analysis of the results, so only the scientists who were well trained, right, they can easily just examine it visually, because during those time there was no complex technology. So the experience was very, very required. So a well trained scientist could easily find out the changes which have come about after conducting that experiment. So typically classical methods involved combination of elaborate analytical techniques, and yeah, this is just a repetition. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so now guys, we'll talk about the main methods. So main methods which were used. So if you see the Carl Fisher titration. So Carl Fisher titration, guys, you guys might have performed in your, I guess, 12th class, because I remember the students who are in 12th, they definitely perform this Carl Fisher titration. And it's nothing, it's basic titration technique, right? So during 19th century, so this was the one of the classical method which was used widely for detecting food, for conducting food analysis, that is known as Karl Fischer titration. So in this technique, if you see the Karl Fischer titration, the iodine reduction by sulfur dioxide in the presence of water developed early as the preferred method for determination of moisture in the low moisture food. So guys, this was the one of the major, I mean, prominent technique which was used in the previous times to find out the water level in the low moisture food. Low moisture food, you can see, like for example, dried fruits or dried vegetables, or the food which are high in sugar or protein. So in order to find out the water or the water content in such low moisture food, so Karl Fischer titration was very, very important. So now you need not to go into detail what was Karl Fischer titration, how it was performed, because that is not at all, FSSAI does not want you to know that things, right? Because ultimately you are going to be a food safety officers, you need to have knowledge of the act, you knowledge of your food safety officer manual, knowledge of your rules and regulations. So this is just to an overview, and why this overview FSSAI wants you to know, there's a reason behind that. Because you remember we read yesterday that food analyst would send the report whenever the food analyst conducts any test on the food, then he sends the report to the food safety officer. So now when that reports comes to the food safety officer, so food safety officer must have a basic idea, right? That yeah, this is the report, these are the tests which he has conducted. So that is why I mean, just to give you a basic knowledge, FSSAI just want you to have a basic idea, that's it. Even I hardly, I mean, there won't be any question asked. Even if you skip this topic, it's well and good. So then next method is Gel-Dahl method. So if you see, even guys, even this method, I mean, you might have done in your 12th standard, not in 12th and graduation first year. So Gel-Dahl measurement of protein. So this method is basically used for protein detection. So these are the important things that you need to remember. So this method is used for detection of protein. So digestion with the sulfuric acid and copper analyst, boric acid, titration of NH3. So this is again a titration technique, right? So this helps in determination of protein in the food. So guys, now can you imagine, I mean, right now in this 21st century, we have latest technologies, right? You just load the sample and they would give you the protein content, they would give you the complete profile of your food article. But earlier time, so earlier times, I mean, scientists, they used to, conduct the titration. It was long and cumbersome process, right? So they have to wait for the reactions to occur. Then before that, they have to prepare the sample for testing. I mean, lot of complex techniques. I mean, it was very, very difficult. But yeah, these were the, I mean, again, these were the cornerstones on which the further new technology was developed. So gel measurement, it was majorly used for finding the protein content in the food, and it became a standard food analysis technique for over 100 years. So can you imagine, guys, this technique was so important or so reliable. So it has been, I mean, it has been in the system from past over 100 years. And even today, I mean, few laboratories, they try to, they use this technology, right? So if you see, this was a standard food analysis technique. So Gel-Dahl methods, universality, then precision, then reproducibility made it internationally recognized standard method for estimating protein content in the food. So, I mean, this technique was so good that it has high precision and the results were highly reproducible, right? So that is why this was one of the internationally recognized technique which was preferred by scientists or the food technologists or the food chemist to carry out the experiments to find out the protein content in the food. Now, guys, as you know, I mean, this technique was very, very famous, but there were also few drawbacks. And even in China, they try to they try to find a leverage out of these drawbacks. So how did they try to use this drawback of this experiment? I'll let you know in these lines. So if you see, however, the Geldal assay does not exclusively measure protein content. I mean, this method, although it is very, very famous, but this method has a limitation. I mean, it does not exclusively measure only the protein content. It can also measure other nitrogen rich chemicals which are present in the food. So I mean, so it wrongly identifies them also as a protein. So now this assess inability to differentiate between protein and non-protein nitrogen was exploited in two adulteration incidents in China. So China, they tried to I mean, cheat this experiment, because as you know, this test, it has only single inability, that is, it was not able to differentiate between protein and other non-protein nitrogen. So now Chinese manufacturers, they took leverage of this loophole, and what they did is, if you see, they used melamine. Melamine is a nitrogen rich chemical which is used in plastic and fertilizers, and it was added to diluted food material to falsely show them as a high protein. So can you imagine? I mean, they were just mixing melamine in the food. So this is one of the, I mean, it's a chemical, it's harmful chemical, as you know, it's used in fertilizers and other plastic products. So they were adding this melamine in the food, and they were selling it as a high protein food. So I mean, yeah, so that is why they took the advantage of this loophole of this test, and they were selling, I mean, just toxic to the consumers, right? So yeah, this is just a one of the disadvantage of this method. So additionally, disadvantage of Jadal method, such as the need to use concentrated sulfuric acid. So another major drawback which was in this Jadal technique, so concentrated sulfuric acid was used at a high temperature with relatively long digestion time. So concentrated sulfuric acid was used in this technique, and the digestion time was very, very long. So this led to development of Dumas nitrogen combustion method for measuring the crude protein content. So this method, Dumas nitrogen combination combustion method, it replaced the Jaldal method. So as I told you already, it had few drawbacks. So now this method was developed, and you need not to go into detail what this method was, right? So now coming to car price assay. So now guys, again, this assay, if you see, it uses a calorimetric measurement of at 620 nm to determine the analyte concentrate. So now this technique, it used to measure the food's concentration. So what all are the chemicals or the components of any particular food. So basically it used to measure the concentration of the food. So the reaction of the antimony trichloride with vitamin A in chloroform yields an intense but unstable blue color. So the reproducibility and accuracy of this assay is highly dependent on the subjective interpretation of the color of the change by the analyst. So again, if you see, so in this technique, antimony trichloride with vitamin A was used. So this used to give an unstable blue color if there were any there was any problem in the food concentration, right? So now if you see, again, this method was very, very uh, it majorly dependent on the analysis of the food analyst, because again, there were no any high end techniques which could give you accurate result. So it purely depended on the experience of or the interpretation of the food analyst, right? So now if you see, because of the other colored chemical interference present in many type of food sample, that can influence the accuracy of the result. So now calorimetric methods such as CAR-PAIR were eventually replaced in 1980s by faster and more accurate HPLC techniques. So guys, before the HPLC, so car price, this was one of the major technique which was used to find the composition. But now the disadvantage with this was, because the food has various colors, right? It can have multiple colors. So these colors, they used to interfere with the test. So now this technique, then further in 1980s, it was replaced by HPLC. And I mean, HPLC, with the advent of HPLC, things have become very, very easy, very, very fast. And even you guys would have definitely used HPLC technique once, I mean, in your life during graduation period, right? So this was the car price technique led to the development of HPLC technique. Right. So now coming to the titration assay. So guys, titration assay, I mean, this is the most basic technique, right? So this definitely you would have experienced in your 12th standard. So titration, if you see that, this was basically used for the analysis of trace minerals. You remember we have read about minerals in our first class. So for example, calcium, copper, iron, manganese, zinc, and other toxic metals like lead, cadmium in foods. So this titration technique. This majorly focused on uh, finding all these minerals or the toxic metals which might be present in the food. Right. So these were initially performed by wet chemical titration assay of precipitation complexes or reactions with chromogens to form colored products that can be quantified by light absorption. So this was the technique which was used. I mean, earlier titration assay was performed and then it was further quantified by light absorption technique. So these techniques were replaced by commercialization of the atomic absorption spectroscopy or the mass spectrometry. So now instead of titration, if you want to find these trace elements or the heavy elements in the food, so today instead of titration method, which again takes a lot of time and it does not give you the accurate results, so now they are replaced by more accurate and more precise technology, that is mass spectroscopy. Right. So yeah, I mean guys, this is very very basic. So you just need to have an overview. You need to remember 4 to 5 techniques, that's it. And what are they used for? I mean, as I told you, this technique is used for finding the trace minerals, and another technique is used for finding the protein, and the one of the another technique is used to find the composition of the food. Just remember the name of the techniques and only the uh, method name, that's it. So yeah, I mean, if you go through that, that would be sufficient for you. So although many classical methods are still widely used today, they were eventually substituted with instrumental methods that provided lower detection limit, increased analytical specificity, simplified used, then reduced cost, high sample throughput, and automation capability. So guys, although if you see many classical methods are even widely used today, but again, I mean, if you see the food business operators, they are forming complex foods every day, right? You go to the supermarket, you can find thousands of foods which you have even not heard in past 5 years, right? But now with the advent of new food processing techniques, advent of new enzymes, and advent of new preservation techniques, so these food companies, they come up with all the new delicacies or the proprietary foods. So with the and also these food manufacturers or the people who do adulteration, they are using the latest techniques to do the adulteration so that it is not easily detectable, right? So in those cases, we need to have different technologies. And also guys, with the in the you can say in the past 20 to 30 years, microbial contamination has also increased, right? Because food passes through a lot of hands in throughout the transport chain. So now even microbial contamination is one of the bigger problems. So we cannot rely on these basic techniques, right? So we need to have important or more complex techniques which could give you simplified test, or it and also it could give you high specificity and high throughput, and also it is completely automated. You just load the sample and you will get the result at the end of the day, right? So yeah, so guys, that's it. I mean, you just go through these techniques. There is nothing much to read about this technique. So tomorrow we'll cover in detail the modern techniques. So in basic techniques, just read 4 to 5 of these techniques and the type of foods which can be tested, right? So that's it. Don't go in detail. If you want to go, you are most welcome. Just you will be wasting your time if you go in detail in this topic, right? So I would recommend just go through this presentation. That's it, right? So guys, thank you so much. So today's class was short, but I mean, there is no point just extending it without any reason. So just read these points. So tomorrow we'll meet again. So tomorrow we'll talk about more advanced techniques which are used in this 21st century, right? So guys, thank you so much. See you tomorrow then. Take care. Bye.